Have you ever considered how liberating it would be to transform your deepest passions into a profitable book, course, or coaching program? Hello, action takers. Welcome to another thrilling episode of the IDKWTF I Was Doing podcast. I'm David B., your friend and co pilot on this exciting journey of creating income from your interests. And, of course, beside me is the ever resourceful Teresa Merrick. And this show is here to be your beacon of inspiration while you're navigating those foggy unknowns. Today, we're going to delve into the riveting world of June Lucarotti, a phenomenal book coach and editor who's been helping a significant amount of people birth their books through writing and meditation workshops. June has been in this industry for a remarkable 17 years, and today she is sharing some incredible secrets. And if that's not enough to get your interest radar pinging, wait till you hear what we're going to unpack. First, we dive deep into June's journey, where we get to hear a very personal and heartwarming story on why her business matters to her so much, and exactly why she's so good at being able to help her clients transfer love and energy from their heart right into their book. Second, we uncover some of June's golden nuggets, tips that are nothing short of easy to implement but game changing if you're looking to write a book, develop a course, or mold your experiences and passions into something that serves your audience. These are actionable, implementable ideas that you can start using immediately. So, all right, my action taking friend, since Teresa and I have been navigating the exhilarating waters of business for a while now, we can relate to exactly how you feel. We understand starting a new venture can seem like setting sail into an unknown sea, and that's exactly why we're right here with you. So, if creating income from your passions gives your soul a little stir, hit that subscribe button and let your worries take a back seat. Now relax, focus up, and let's dive in. Have you ever started something new and didn't finish it?
You were excited. You invested time and money.
You got stuck.
I'm Teresa Merrick.
And I'm David B.
And this is the podcast with two ADHD entrepreneurs, and we've been there.
And worked with hundreds of people in the exact same place.
The IDKWTF I Was Doing podcast will take you away from feelings of frustration and overwhelm.
And lead you to the clarity you need to take action and get shit done.
Listen today because it's important to admit that no one really knows
what the fuck they're doing.
And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the IDK WTF I Was Doing podcast. I am David B.
And I'm Teresa Merrick. And we are here today with June Lucarotti, who happens to be a friend of mine. And I'm so excited to introduce you guys to her. She is a book coach, an author, and an editor. Thank you.
Welcome. We're very, very excited to have you here and to hear your wonderful wisdom that you're going to share with our audience of action takers. So for those who don't already know you, June, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what you do and how you got started?
Yeah. So like you said, I'm a book coach and editor, and I run a program called Birth Your Book. It is usually a 6-month program. This summer, I'm doing a shorter version that's 8 weeks long. And the premise is just having folks write the first draft of your book. So a lot of people have been wanting to write a book forever. They just don't know how to get started, or they're in the middle of it and they don't know how to finish. And that's where I come in, is just coaching them through that. So it's a group coaching program. We usually have, between 6 to 12 participants. And it's really fun. Or we meet every week and do some exercises. We work through the chakras. So a lot of it is body-based and focused on yoga, which is unique. And the reason behind is because a lot of the people that I work with are writing books are potentially really difficult emotionally to write. I have a lot of folks who are doing nonfiction books, memoirs, things that might be related to trauma. Not necessarily that that's what you have to write in my program. I've had some really fun, beach read fiction authors and script writers and all of that. But really the premise is the writing, but it's also the healing through writing
Yeah, and
and yeah, that
that's the first thing I noticed that jumped out to me when I was checking out all of your stuff is that it's like it's yoga based and meditation based to get your book done, which I think is huge because I've worked with a lot of authors as well, or like aspiring authors, right? And they've got so much story that they want to tell, and they've got such a great message that they want to share with the world. But as they start writing and start putting it onto paper, like all the weird stuff comes up and it makes it really hard for them to finish the book, right?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think writing is similar to meditation in that way, where like if you sit down to write, almost immediately stuff comes up in your brain that is not writing or that's just telling you you suck or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, just keep coming back to the page. It's the same way during meditation. You just keep coming back to the breath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you
It's
what do
amazing.
you
I
think
don't think I've ever heard you describe it like that, but it makes so much sense. You just keep coming back.
what do you think like the number one thing that you see come up for your aspiring authors? Like what's the number one thing that gets in their way?
Yeah. So when I talk to people about their books initially, the number one thing is usually time, that people don't have time to write their books. Then we do a values exercise around that, kind of looking at whether your values are aligned with the activities that you do on a daily basis and what value your book is aligned with or your future book is aligned with. And then really, we do work with time. There's a section in the course around expanding time. And I would say underneath that concern around time is usually vulnerability. So folks often come with, I don't have time to write my book. And usually it's like, I'm scared shitless to write my
I'm so afraid. I'm so afraid to put myself out there. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, vulnerability is such a huge piece. And yeah, creating that expansion of time is pretty incredible. It's happened to me before listening to
Mhm.
an amazing coach. So it really, and for those of you that may not have heard of that before, June, do you want to talk about what that's like?
Expanding time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if I tell you I don't have enough time, how would you coach me through that?
Well, like I said, we would talk through your values and sort of see like, what is it that you're doing? What is it that you're not doing? So that's sort of more like the surface level. Honestly, we cross out some of the activities that you're doing and see how we can expand the ones that you want to be doing. The other piece of that is, it's funny because I have coached you, Teresa, but I haven't coached you on this.
You have coached me, and that's very true.
Trying to think about it, but mostly it's the commitment. It's like once you decide that you're doing something, time just expands. It's really the commitment. It's like, okay, I'm going to have kids. Okay, so your world expands. It doesn't somehow you make it work. You want to get married and you're making room for this other person and somehow you make it work. It's that the commitment actually comes first. You don't have to figure everything out all the time. And then, you know, things just open up.
Totally. No, I think it's absolutely true. And I think the commitment piece is actually in that moment when you like decide, okay, I'm going to do this and make it happen. Then like how much time do we actually probably waste thinking about what we should be doing or what we want to be doing? And we spend this time thinking about it. And
Totally.
like that commitment piece, I think once you have your pen and your paper, your laptop, your keyboard in front of you, and you're actually
Totally.
writing, it's different.
Totally. And that's, we have 3 main sections of the program.
Mhm.
That one is focused on peace. So that's really like the expanding time, getting into the rhythm of your writing practice, habit stacking, like putting it on top of meditation or on top of yoga or on top of something that you already do really regularly. But the second piece of the program, I think, is the most important to that commitment part is purpose. We focus on like, what is your purpose? What's your overall life purpose?
Mhm.
And how does that connect to your book? And once people really like connect with that, it becomes easy. It's like your purpose overcomes the fear and and the vulnerability and all of that. So, yeah.
The other thing I really liked as I was looking through kind of the stuff that you help coach people through is it says you add an extra like big goal for someone to do, and whether it's like running a marathon or what are some other examples there, and kind of how does that
Yeah.
the whole thing?
I'd say one of the biggest things that folks add into the program are business goals.
Mhm.
A lot of the times people are writing books for their businesses, and it might be a workbook, it might be a memoir, it might be something else entirely. But a lot of times it really links with the book subject itself.
Okay.
And they really just go hand in hand. So if someone, like recently, I'm working with someone who is developing her online course, and all the material in the book, similar to my own book, goes into the course. And it's really easy to work with in that way. Other folks have one person had a relationship goal. She wanted to be in a relationship by the end of the program. And she was like, how is this going to happen? This is a writing program. But some of the steps that she wrote, I mean, she was writing a poetry book, just really opened things up, I think, in a really new way. And it was the week before the program ended. She said, I met my person.
Oh,
And I was like, oh my goodness. So I went to her book launch. I met her person too at the, after the program was over. And it was just incredible to see she had really made both of these goals come to fruition. And this, I'm sure she wouldn't mind me mentioning her. This is Amber Sierra. She's an incredible poet based in Denver.
okay.
That's
That's
pretty
amazing.
amazing. I love that because I think when you think about tangible goals, you're almost like, oh, 2 big goals. That's really stressful. But it's like, what's the saying? Like, if you need something done, give it to a busy person. Like, so if you're working on things, there's no time for you to be sitting around watching Netflix or looking at your phone and scrolling because you're
Yeah.
busy. And then when you're already going, it's easier to just be like, oh, I have to do this thing. I want to sit down. Nope, I'm going to do this first. Because if I sit down, I'm not going to get up. So then you keep going and you complete whatever you're doing. But then to even have like a non-linear goal like that, where it's like, sure, you go on dating apps. There's certain things you can do to forward that, but there's no like guarantee you're going to meet the person you're excited about in 4 months. But
Yeah.
when you're open to it and you're creating it and you're in the right spaces for it to happen, it creates way more space for that like possibility. So
Yeah, I think people really create clarity out of writing their books.
And
yeah,
it's
what
to
do
me,
they
it's
really
really
want?
neat. It's neat because when we start doing something and we start taking committed action, no matter what it is, more things happen. And I found that to be really true in my business also. Like the more I started doing, and I actually started out by writing a book. I never finished publishing it
Cool.
actually, but it was just the act of writing it opened up more and more doors for me.
Yeah.
And I think it's neat by adding another stretch goal, whether it's meeting someone, running a marathon, doing something else in your business, just the more committed action you're taking, the more doors and the more windows open up to let
Yeah.
other positive things come into your life. So I think that's huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exciting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and June, so how do you bring play into your practice? Because I think a lot of us, I'm talking about me
Yeah.
here, are very serious. We're very serious and we could use more play. And I think you're amazing at bringing that out in people, June.
Thank you. It's funny because I don't see you as serious, Teresa. In a
Maybe
good
I just
way.
feel serious, like in my head.
Totally. Yeah. So that's actually the third step of the program. So I said peace and purpose. And the third step is play. And it has taken me a really long time to understand for myself what that means in the program. Initially, it meant sharing your book. Like play was like getting out on the field, and playing with your book and sharing with other people. And it still is. So by the time we move through the chakras throughout the program, by the time we get up to the heart space, which we're actually doing this week, it really is like play, like share your book with other people, read your book in different venues, even if it's not complete. So that's one is having some like companionship, some some collaboration there. I mean, the other aspect is actually truly collaboration. So having people do interviews for your book, or, having them contribute some kind of something, even the artwork on the front of the cover, like that can be, I see that as a form of play, and just this sort of like engaging outside of yourself using multimedia. Some people have used like QR codes and, attached music or something like that into their books, which is really neat. And then beyond that, it's really like after we've moved past peace and purpose, it's really like taking ownership of your book. Like there are no rules. Like, sure, we looked at the word counts in the very beginning and we turned in this many words or whatever it was. But by the end of the program, it's yours. It's just like you play, you do it, you write it however you want to, you structure it however you want to. And, we do things like coming up with a theme song for your book, if your book had a theme song, or just really kind of silly things. Like if your book was a specific character, what would it be? That kind of thing. So, yeah.
That's fun. It's really fun. And it's a lot of new ways to think about, if you're a writer, to think about your book. But I mean, to think about anything that you're passionate about is like, how can I bring playfulness to this? How can I make it more engaging for myself, for other people, and to not just be home alone in my own head? Because a lot of entrepreneurs, we're home alone in our own heads a lot. So
Totally.
getting out there and connecting with other people it can make such a world of difference and perspective.
Right. Yeah, it's fun.
Well, let's take a really short little break and hear from our sponsors, and we will be right back. Have you ever started something new that you were really excited about and invested time or money into, but after doing it for a while, you reach a point and you just feel like, I have no idea what the F I'm doing?
There's that bubbling up of frustration because you're not quite as good as you thought you'd be, or it's nowhere near as easy as you expected. Then suddenly, a wave of guilt comes at the same time, and you don't really want to or feel like you can express this to anyone.
Having a dream you want to accomplish can be very sad and isolating. It's lonely because visionaries tend to see the world the way that it could be, instead of settling for the way the world currently is, like most people do.
We believe this so deeply that we wrote a book with the exact 4 steps to help.
This guide is designed to take you out of that feeling of frustration and overwhelm and lead you into the calmness and clarity that you need to reach the life that you know in your heart you're destined to have.
If you've started a project or a goal but have stopped, gotten stuck, or are starting to feel burned out, this is 100% the book for you.
Go to IDKWTFpodcast.com today and download your digital copy with the coupon code ACTION to get it on us, because we want to join you and be your supportive friends and partners throughout your journey.
It's only free for a limited time if you use the code ACTION by going to our website, IDKWTFpodcast.com.
Check it out today and let's get unstuck together.
And we are back, action takers, continuing our interview here with the wonderful June. And so I actually had a question, because your business name is Vola Sessions.
Yep.
So where did that name come from?
Yeah, I'm glad you're asking. I definitely, looking back, I wonder, should I have named it that? Because nobody knows what it means. But, I did. And the program itself is Birth Your Book. So that tends to be really clear. But Vola Sessions, there's actually a piece in my book about this as well. The volar is the palms of the hands and the soles of the feet. It's just kind of like a technical term for that, which I didn't realize until I was kind of brainstorming names. I was racking my brain trying to come up with a name for my business. This was like, I don't know, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, something like that. And I just finally gave up writing things and I decided to trace my hand. And I was like, hand. Okay, can I do something with hands? Because that's what people use to write. And I started thinking about it, and I realized the word volar, like volar, is Spanish, Italian, any form of like Latin root for to fly. And I'm part Italian as well, so that kind of hooked it back in. But so I really was thinking like, well, okay, I'm going to help people fly, from their hands, from their feet. the combination of yoga and writing was kind of what came into that. So that's the first part of it. The second part, sessions, I had a childhood therapist who was really impactful. And she and I wrote stories together. That was really where I started writing.
Wow.
And I was like in elementary school. And we would draw picture books and write stories for them. I just thought it was the most amazing thing. It was like one of the only spaces that I felt like I had like the power to create whatever I wanted.
Mhm.
And she passed when I was in middle school. So after I had sort of stopped seeing her, but I was very close with her. She called and, told me she loved me before she passed. And, all those things you're not supposed to do as a therapist, but we were very close. And she would make me birthday cakes and all of that. But I remember thinking when I would go to the session in San Francisco, I always thought that word sessions, my parents would say, "You're going to your session," or whatever it was so odd and unique
Mhm.
that I wanted to adapt. Like I wanted to do sessions the way that she had done them with me and just kind of a way to honor her. So there's a lot packed into that business name.
Yeah. No,
It's
that's
really
awesome.
beautiful. It's beautiful, June. I'm glad you picked that. I mean, it's what a story to like share with people. Like how deep this business, like what it means to you and where it comes from. Like your
Yeah,
core. It's like it's you. It's who you are. You're gonna
very
fly.
much.
I'm gonna help you fly from your hands and your feet. And we're gonna have sessions and it's gonna be fun and you're gonna
Totally.
feel all the love.
Totally. And when you just said that too, I remember sitting on her couch when I was a kid. I think it was the one time I like dared to get silly when she was asking me all these questions. And I was upside down and I was truly flying upside. And my feet were up on the top and I was upside down just watching her ask me questions from outside. It's just one of those memories. It's funny. I
Yeah.
remember thinking, God, she looks so weird upside down.
Thoughts of a kid.
Yeah, if only we could keep that, like, excitement and just joy that kids have.
Yeah. Sometime I think we can return
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but, no, I especially like that the comparison or like that just when we're writing with our hands, and when we're doing meditation or yoga especially, like, that's where energy comes in and out of, right? And so I think that's
Mhm.
such a powerful connection. That's a really cool thing to put together.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It's the grounding and the flying
Yeah.
sort of at the same time.
Um, so kind of
Okay.
on that, do you have any kind of just tips or tricks for our action taking audience? Because a lot of them are probably in the processes of either writing a book or creating some sort of course. What are some like
Yeah.
tips you would have for them to just get it done?
Well, a couple different things. And one of the things that we do, one of the biggest things is accountability.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's the major piece of the course. One of the things we do around is a power week where everyone writes every day for the entire week, even just for 5 minutes. So it's something that anyone can do just on your own. Try on just writing for 5 minutes a day
Okay.
and time to yourself. Maybe you're not even allowed to go past 5 minutes, but sometimes that feeling of writing can feel so overwhelming that just opening the computer is the biggest step.
Mhm.
So I would say, 5 minutes a day to start is probably one of the things I would recommend. And then people get really, once you start writing, like we said, that critical voice kind of jumps in, or you might be writing or you might be writing something really vulnerable. And there are a couple things that help with. Sometimes you can do process writing. So I like to describe it as a sewage valve. You think so? Basically, you're looking at the screen and writing your manuscript, typing your manuscript, but you have a notebook next to you. A lot of people do this anyway, but to kind of give it a name is helpful. And you can just jot down whatever those thoughts, whenever they come in, like even if it's, oh, I've got to take out the laundry or whatever it is, just jot them down in the notebook as you're writing your book. So they don't actually clog up the book. Well, you're not right. Like it doesn't show up in your writing that you're just like full on doubting yourself. You just write all those doubts like in the process, right? I will say though that sometimes it is valuable to actually do that writing within the book and really like make it really transparent and authentic as well if it fits. But you can always look back at your process notes later and see, do I want to actually include any of this?
The
But
key
it's
is
a
to
way
write
to
it.
sort of just let the crap out as you're focusing on the manuscript itself.
Mhm.
And then I think, honestly, movement, like a lot of people go for a run after or before writing. Same with the yoga. That's kind of where it can come in. It doesn't really matter what kind of movement, but the physical movement, it is such a body-based practice in the course that it can help us really just move through the emotions of whatever we're writing about to pair it up with the writing. Not only is it helpful to pair it up if you're someone who already goes to the gym every day as just like building a habit, but
Mhm.
it's also just helpful to move through the emotion of it.
Yeah, to
That's a
really
great one.
release that stress. It's the same thing. It just releases it. It gives your body a physical place to release whatever it is. And yeah, especially if you're writing, nonfiction where,
Yeah.
you're talking about your own life or it, that can be really hard.
Yeah.
at-
Yeah. Well, and sometimes now I'm like, I can give you 100 tips, but sometimes like I recommend that people look at their writing first, then go for a run or do whatever you're doing, and then come back to it so that you actually have time to sort of write in your head as you're even going through your day. So I call it like framing your day,
Mhm.
which is really fun. It's kind of like magical. You've got this book, in the back of your brain while you're going through the rest of your normal life. And you get to sort of retreat to this like place of imagination and creation while you're going through your day. And then you sit down and write it out. It's a way to move through writer's block.
Yeah.
And the one tip, because what I do see a lot of clients stay in that excited place of like they have this dream of the thing they want to create or the book they want to write, but they still have that hard time sitting down to write it. So it's like
Yeah.
that's their favorite thing to do is imagine it being written. But when it comes to actually writing it and doing the writing, there's such a disconnect there. So I like that first tip that you gave, which is just like give it 5 minutes. Just commit
Mhm.
to sitting down for 5 minutes. You can stay
Mhm.
longer if you need to.
Yeah.
But because like that imagined world of it being done and like being on the news and getting interviews feels so big.
Mhm.
And it's fun to think about,
Yeah.
but it takes, getting there first. Is that something you found or is that something you
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny because people are very different. Some people get really motivated by thinking about the end product.
yeah.
And then some people, it terrifies them. So they can't, I'm like, don't even go there yet. Like, you're not there yet. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the other piece of this is, I think why the program is valuable is that people are turning and writing every week.
Yeah.
And I'm reviewing it, peers are reviewing it. And it's just, you get that sort of gratification along the way
Mhm.
of sharing. So even like, starting a blog or something where you're starting to share your writing, going on Patreon,
Mhm.
something like that can be a really good way to do that.
Yeah, it's a great
Yeah, that feedback too. Well, and for some of us are like, I have to procrastinate, but then it's like, oh, I have to turn this in and somebody's gonna read it. And if I'm supposed to be trading writing with like a buddy in this program, like
Yeah.
I better not have Susie's writing and be like, sorry, Susie, I don't have anything to give you this week. Like that's not gonna work.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It goes back to that
Yeah.
accountability piece, but also, yeah. And then you get feedback and you get someone to say, this is what I love. And, this is where I have questions or, the feedback that anyone who would write a book
Yeah.
needs.
Yeah. And some programs are more like workshops where people will be honestly just really pretentious, like pain in the ass people.
Yeah.
And this program is really designed not for the feedback that we give. I'm very clear it's more like a reflection, like a mirror. This is what I see in this other person's writing. It's not like a critique, or it's a little different in that way. So it's actually really fun for them to read each other's books, because here they are, they're all saying, who's going to want to read my book? And then then the other person is like, this is amazing. And so it feeds back into the person who's writing as well to go, oh, maybe mine is amazing too.
Well, right. And because for you, this program and editing someone's book are completely separate, right? Like you edit, you
Really
might
separate.
have pieces that you work, but
Yeah.
like you're not going to edit someone's entire book from that. It's a different process.
I actually do. So usually in the 6-month program, I edit week by week, and peers don't edit week by week, but I am editing, moving things around. And so I'm probably the pain in the ass.
Make it look bad.
Because that's what people are paying me for. So yes, the short answer is yes. Like as we go along, I generally do edit the whole thing. In this summer program that's coming, because it's so short, it's 8 weeks, folks are going to be more editing each other's stuff rather than me, but I do give some feedback.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then, so have you noticed a change? Because you've been doing this for 17 years, right?
I've been teaching writing meditation in various capacities for 17 years. I've been running the business for about 8.
How have you noticed a change in the industry, kind of with the rise of, like, especially as it's gotten easier to publish online, and now we have
Yeah.
GE that can just write for us, Have you noticed a change in how things are done?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I graduated my master's in creative writing program right around the time that self-publishing was exploding. It's like
Yeah.
around 2013.
Yep.
So I was kind of in the middle of it. I was going to these writing conferences, and they kept saying, things are shifting, even outside of like libraries and,
Yeah.
just bookstores and bringing things into digital and self-publishing. So it is really different. It's funny because I think a lot of folks come into the program with this really idealized version of what it is to write books and publish books.
Mm.
And I think that's because it used to be like you actually used to be able to get big enough, usually advances on a book, that you could just take the whole year and write another book. And
Mhm.
and it can be like that, but it's such a different game at this point. People have to really, and I try not to discourage people, because there are always outliers. There are always people who can just get published mainstream right away. But I think it's harder than it used to be. It's something like 1% of people who want to publish and get published in the mainstream, like the 4 large publishers, get published through them. And a lot of it is folks who are already famous, who already have a following. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
But the plus side of that is that now it's easier than ever to build a following.
Yeah.
So it's kind of this weird thing, and I mean, I self-published my book. I knew I was just going to self-publish. It made sense. I think self-publishing makes a lot of sense for folks who are writing a book for their programs, for their businesses, to have a product to sell. Not to say that you shouldn't go for bigger publishing houses. You can actually do both. People don't realize that. You can publish your own book, and you can also submit it elsewhere. Or sometimes people might see it and go, oh, I want to talk to an agent, might see your book already and say, you know what, we might want to publish this. So it's not necessarily either or.
Okay.
But yeah, there's so much to say about this. In terms of ChatGPT, I just had a client use ChatGPT, but she didn't tell me that she used it. So no, but it wasn't, I mean,
No, not to write her whole thing or something. No.
it was, no, but it was actually really interesting because she sent me two different versions of something. And I had no idea. I just read each version and I thought, well, why is she sending me 2 different versions? And just kind of read through it. And then we talked about it, and she said that she used ChatGPT for one of them. And I said, I'm so glad you didn't tell me that, because then I was able to form an opinion and go, oh, wow, this, because that one felt more like casual, but a little bit less like put together than the one that she had actually really put together herself. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if ChatGPT is going to put me up a job or not, but we'll see.
I don't think so. It can't, because I mean, you still have to have the input for it. I think it's a really good tool to adapt, but it's never going to replace the user. Well, I shouldn't say that.
Well, it can, but just like you just said, June, like for you, when you were looking at them, you were able to even let your client know, like, well, I like this version better and this is why, but like, why'd you give me two versions? But then it was like, oh, well, because I think what people are going to find time and time again is that when it's generated by AI, like it's missing the piece that we need, the human piece that makes it better, that makes it more authentic. And it doesn't mean we can't, like David said, it's a tool. We can use it as a tool and it can be helpful. And if you're like, I'm stuck on figuring out a title for this chapter, you can put the chapter or things about it in and they can give you some ideas for a title and you can go, I'm not going to use any of those, but I like the word in this, I want to use tenacious in this chapter title. Like, can I, so it's like, there's ways that it can, yes, it does make it easier. And yes, but I think I think we'll start to be able to tell. And I'm sure there will be things where it won't matter so much. Something technical is going to sound technical, whether ChatGPT wrote it or not. But when you have, an author who's telling a story, we want that, like, we want the substance.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll see. It's a little scary.
It's so new. It's hard to tell.
So those were amazing tips, June. So really, some of the easiest tips that someone who's aspiring to write a book could do is to do like a power week where you write 5 minutes every day. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, good, just 5 minutes. And if you get inspired and want to write a little more, cool. But if you don't have time, like 5 minutes, just do it every day. And then have a space for process notes, like a separate piece of paper so you can jot down any random thoughts that come in your head. If you need to remember to change out the laundry or to feed your dog or whatever it is that is impeding or could impede your process. Then I love this one. This is probably my favorite tip that you have is pair it with movement. So when you're writing, then move your body and like reread. So write, reread, and move your body. And then ideally you give yourself time as well to think about it during, throughout your day. So if you do it in the morning, then you have the whole day to have that kind of in the back of your head, whatever you're writing about. And it'll give you a chance to be more creative and fresh and not so stopped.
Yeah.
So perfect. Well, I love those tips. Thanks, June.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, let's take another quick little break and we will be right back.
Okay.
Thank you for listening. This has been part 1 of our 2-part series on this topic.
The second episode will be out next week, if it's not out already.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, please consider liking, subscribing, and/or reviewing us on wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Also, if there's someone you know who clearly doesn't know what the fuck they're doing and would benefit from this topic, please hit that share button and send them this episode.
Let's normalize the feeling of uncertainty.
Asking for help and admitting that we don't know
What the fuck we're doing either.